Greetings, this is Greg for Teslafaninsight with our trade blast for Friday, the 29th of May, 2020. We're in a place called Have de Grace, Maryland. I guess they reference it as historical Have Grace, and we're on something called the Susquehanna River, and that's what's behind us right now. So I wanted to give you guys a little different view. I have my COVID mask here ready to go. If I have to go into a store, as you can see. Please note we have a bunch of ducks that are on the prowl or march this morning. So if you see any duck craziness, you'll know had nothing to do with me. I've been avoiding them, but they're keeping an eye on me just in case, because there are a lot of small ducks right now that may be that the parents are fearful that there might be an attack from. So today is Friday. We usually do obviously trade blasts on a daily basis. A lot of things happening outside of just our trade blast that we wanted to cover today that I think are kind of interesting. So we're going to start off with the trade blast, and then we're going to get into Neil De Grass Tyson's comments regarding the Spacex launch, which theoretically will be on Saturday, maybe delayed further. Any rate, this is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Wanted to again thank you for being a Patreon supporter, hence you're getting this trade blast first. I wanted to note that we've been doing written trade blasts primarily because we're kind of in too far from earnings for things to start getting choppy, and therefore we're kind of just where we're at relative to Tesla. Today's trade blast for me is interesting because we have a kind of a crazy situation going. What's going on is that when I come to Fridays and I need to review what the data is as I'm going to make my decision on what my thoughts are on the trade blast, there are several things I review. If you go to Yahoo Finance Tesla options, I'll then start looking around at the options within $10 or $20 of where we are currently. Today's situation is a little bit different, meaning that like at $800 a share, the zeros are huge for a whole bunch of reasons. A lot of people said stop losses there. When you buy at an even number, it makes it easier to keep track of number of shares for large institutions. There are all these reasons why zeros are actually very, very important. What I was surprised by this week is the fact that if you look at it, there's some strange numbers out there. The strangest numbers that I'm seeing are the fact that the highest number of puts are calls at 825 at like 17,000 units. And then at 20, there's approximately, at 820, there's approximately, call it 7,000 or 8,000 units worth of calls. And then fewer as we drop from there. Interestingly, the biggest amount of puts that I see within a 20-mile radius of our current stock price is actually at 810. So based on reviewing all of this, it's my estimate today that there's a huge incentive for not the usual on zeros that's out there, but a stock price conclusion today is somewhere above 810, but below 825 optimizes the market maker's goals of making money. So even though we closed the day at 805 last night, there's been a push up, as you can see, towards that 810 mark. And I think I know that they can push price down to get things done to keep it below 825, but I've never seen, in my watching this over the last year or so, and then prior, I've never seen them able to sort of cherry pick the price between two price points, especially if those price points are kind of close, because the gap between 825 and 810 is actually a fairly narrow range, given that the stock price typically rotates between 800 and maybe 830 or 820 or something in that range. So this is, I think, is going to be a very interesting trading day because of this. How are the market makers going to handle their goal of obviously making money but how do they optimize it in light of the data points that I just gave you? Um, my answer is I know that they're going to keep it below 825. Last week's trade blast, was confirmed by them keeping it below 820 because of the 20,000 calls that would have been profitable had it been above 820. So today I'm moving in the same direction. We're definitely going to be below 825 by the end of the day because there's just too much money to be made to keep it below that. Below 820 further adds nice cash. So I really think sub 820, but above 810 is where the optimization is for market makers' interests. So we'll look forward to tracking this and seeing what happens. But there's tremendously obvious incentives for them to execute this today. The next thing I wanted to review is that we sent notes out to you regarding there's a gentleman on Twitter who tells when he goes in and out on trades, and he has something called trade blasts. He's hashtag at squawk Squawk is his Twitter handle, and he has maybe 1 million or so, maybe 2 in hand, and he typically trades in 1 to 2,000 blocks of shares, no options, just buying or selling the shares. And typically he tries to go in for about 10 points or $10,000 in profit, and has an awesome track record of technique when it comes to predicting the stock price of Tesla in very, very tight windows. And I've been kind of following through friends or other trading associates his predictions and execution over the last, let's say, week, but they've been watching him for about the last month and a half, and he's about 90% accurate on what tends to occur. And I wanted to encourage you to take some time to embrace him. I'm going to go ahead and get my Twitter going so I can start following him as well. And I wanted to note that we're going to start doing blasts based on what we're hearing from him on where things are and are going. I guess the last one that we were exposed to is yesterday. He indicated that for it to stay above 820, there wasn't enough volume yesterday. And so as you saw, the stock price fell from 820 all the way to 801 on the low. So, this guy's actually very good, and I encourage you to take some time out to consider what his input might be. The last thing I wanted to cover today is that Neil De Grass Tyson is on Yahoo Finance right now with a really interesting interview relative to Elon Musk. I thought one of the things that was apropos for today is just his comment regarding Elon that, there are certain people that are comfortable with risk and manage it well. And if we didn't have those, we'd be all in trouble. And Elon really is one of those people. I thought it was funny because he made the comment that, most people are staying within, in the good old days, those that stayed in the cave never got eaten by a tiger or anything. And there are those that had to go out and that might have gotten eaten by that saber-toothed tiger. And so the fact is we need some of these folks to go out and be our eyes and ears and allow us to explore, being exposed to things that we might not otherwise be. And Elon is that person for us. He has a number of points he makes that I think are interesting. Among the other points he makes is that, you'll notice that most of the rockets that go up have NASA's name on the side because it's a contracting relationship between NASA and the entity that built that, with more the other entity. In this case, SpaceX name is on the side of that vehicle. And, the fact that that's the case really shows the mandate for sort of private space exploration now and into the future and how it impacts everything. I thought it was an awesome interview. As you know, we have a group that's preparing to invest in SpaceX shares, and we may have room if you're serious for those who might be interested. Drop me a, best case would be drop me a note on Patreon. with a phone number in the private area, and we can sort of respond to you quickly. Email, we already have your email, but just drop a note, and then we can even interact with you via your email that you gave us at Patreon. But I think it'll be a good launch tomorrow. They're well prepared, and it was interesting to watch the stock price of Tesla impacted by SpaceX, because Tesla's doing great, and it just seems like evidently it's a PR coup to have the vehicles highlighted in that space, and it seems to have some impact. So if it's a successful launch, you may keep an eye on Tesla doing well on Monday. If not, then maybe a little bit of a ding for the stock, but I don't see any problems with how the company is operating, etc. Any rate, like I said, for today, I see the stock price sort of pinned between 810 and 820 most efficiently, but definitely sub 825. Mr. Trump choosing to make comments today sort of cost me some money last night, but I'm glad I have my puts and calls in almost equal ratios right now to see what happens, because I think it's going to be, obviously it's already hurt the market because it's down 300 points because of the pre-announcement, and now we're actually going to get the announcement, and I expect that the market to be in rough shape all day long until we hear the news, and then we'll see what happens. I think the happen could actually be severely down, unfortunately. At any rate, again, thank you for joining us. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Tschüss, German, au revoir, French, Lihitro, Hebrew, Choda Hafez, Farsi. And in Jamaica, we say, enough respect, walk good man. And I'm going to take you guys out with a little bit more video. Again, the Susquehanna is where we're at. We're in a place called historic Havre de Grace, Maryland. And we're kind of at the golden hour, but it's a little bit cloudy here. As you can see, there's a train trellis beyond the house behind us. So I'm maintaining my reputation for, proximate to train locations. Anyway, thanks again for joining us. We look forward to your comments. Please take time to like and subscribe if you haven't. The like definitely impacts us, and we appreciate your time. Have a great day, and bye for now. I'm looking forward to a stronger next week because we do have the pinning action and the down market heading into the Trump announcements.